So, with the recent release of Call of Duty Black Ops 6, I thought to myself, now is the best possible time to review and discuss a 14-year-old game that's largely been irrelevant for ages outside of its own dedicated corner of fans. Sounds about right. This is Black Ops 1. I'm not going to bullshit you in the slightest. This game might suffer from a Keith Richards amount of crow's feet, which will be discussed shortly, but honestly, with all the good it does have going for it, I give not the slightest fuck. While BO2 might have been my initial introduction to the Mountain Dew-infested COD cult, and arguably stands as the overall superior product on balance, retrospectively going back to Black Ops 1, primarily its excellent zombies mode after getting burned by the colossal disappointment that was Call of Duty Ghosts, had me immediately hooked like never before, nearly instantly bouncing into my personal video game Hall of Fame. I'm primarily just going to be talking about the campaign in this video, as I'm not much of a multiplayer guy, and zombies is a whole lot of can of worms or a chest of snakes for a different time. Though, don't be surprised if I can't help but mention Shangri-La out of nowhere. I figure a decent chunk of you probably know what the story's about, but for the ones just joining in, here's a quick, mostly spoiler-free recap. You play as Alex Mason, an operative of the US military's Black Ops unit during the Cuban Missile Crisis era of the Cold War, escorted by your close friend Frank Woods and the incredibly distracting Ice Cube cameo Chief Joseph Bowman.
Occupants leaving their vehicles armed with shotguns.
On a mission to assassinate dictator Fidel Castro. Long story short, you fell miserably. The guy you killed was merely an imposter. Mason ditched his team to clear out their escape and ended up being handed as a gift to the Soviet Union's Major General Dragovich, who throws you in the perilous Vorkuta Gulag. In there, you make friends with a fellow prisoner, a commie war veteran named Viktor Reznov, who was a focal character in Treyarch's previous game, World at War. And with the help of his comrades, you enact a prison uprising which mimics the Origins Easter egg steps 3 years prior, no less. Damn, that's crazy. Culminating in your escape, but not Reznov's, for now at least. When Mason returns to the States, now hailed as a war hero, he's sent to the Pentagon, tasked by President John F. Kennedy himself to continue his duties under handler Jason Hudson.
Dragovich.
Only, it becomes gradually clear that the man came back with a couple of screws loose. Sporting an unhealthy obsession with tracking down and killing Dragovich, his right-hand man, Lev Kravchenko, and another mysterious character going by the name of Steiner, with a seemingly random series of numbers flashing in and out of his head wherever he goes. Not only that, but the previously thought to be MIA Reznov joins your squad at multiple points throughout their missions, to little acknowledgement from the rest of your teammates. Something wrong is afoot. The story is told from a retrospective point of view, with your character wandering around from stage to stage in a sort of half-drunken trance, slowly uncovering bits of information, as the game starts with you being tied down and interrogated, and this obscenely cool, menacing as all hell main menu screen. Out of habit, I just get out of the chair almost every time and fuck around a bit. Maybe go on the computer and do some Rami Malek hackerman shit. It's even creepier when you select the zombies mode. You gotta love it. What I really appreciate about all these missions is how interconnected they feel. Now, let me clarify what I mean with this. I noticed that typically when I play a COD game, you essentially just go through set-piece simulator stages that somehow tie back around to the general narrative, which is okay, but I definitely appreciate it when gameplay and story weave into each other. It makes each mission feel like its own little episode in a grander series of events, rather than be another excuse to pull off some really cool shooty bang bang stunts. And I mean, this game still has that in spades, it's just a slight bit more tasteful about it. I'd say Black Ops 2 is the true high point for what I'm describing here. Nearly everything you do in that game is so deliberate. That steady touch also shows its way in the game's art design, which I just love to bits. You have to remember that the previous COD to BO1 was Modern Warfare 2, perhaps the textbook example of the brown shooter plague of the late 2000s to early 2010s. It would have been so easy for Treyarch to just simply ape the general look Infinity Ward went for a year previous and ride in on name recognition alone. But opting for this much more dramatic thriller style paid off massively. The usage of harsh blues truly makes fires and explosions pop out better. Lighting sources to not only only have a super cool neon effect, but also visually communicate to the player where to go and what to watch out for. Or in contrast, entering the fantastically sterile Pentagon after the big sweaty set piece sequence in Vorkuta puts you in the subconscious state of familiarity, yet it's one that reeks of unease. Day-to-day civilization does not feel this squeaky clean. You sink yourself in the uncertain waters of a dark Vietnamese river, only to then switch to a stunning snowy mountaintop sunrise. There's a great variety here. Of course, the unintended side consequence of such design language with a generally high brightness color palette is that there will be spots and corners which just look muddy, underlit, or otherwise unappealing, plus some good ol' eye melting bloom effects in case you are feeling too comfortable while playing, though they're mercifully scarce in the campaign and are only very noticeable during extended play sessions from my experience. To me, the captivating story and well-realized aesthetics are truly what carry the campaign from a good one into an all-time classic, as otherwise, it's standard golden era COD shit. The shooting has obviously been tightened as time went on, so did the production scale. Yet, you compare Black Ops 1 to 2020's Cold War, and the more recent release just lacks something. Call it sauce, magic powder, character, or otherwise. And it's not nostalgia goggles either. As I've expressed earlier, I missed out on this game's release, and hell, I only beat the full story late into the 2010s. If there's one point of personal subjective criticism I could throw at Black Ops, one that goes beyond the gameplay is simplistic, or the writing is so wannabe tough guy it comes off as cheesy sometimes, it's more of a philosophical design issue. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but the game's title implies, well, undertaking covert missions, and I don't really think shooting your way through an entire Cuban field to assassinate a dictator or leaving a bloody trail of bodies at a USSR Cosmodrome really counts as a black op. Don't get me wrong, that's not me trying to pitch Tom Clancy's Splinter Ops, but a bit of a quieter shakeup from the big wahoo explosion sequences, one that doesn't amount to
press button for scripted melee kill,
would have been so nice to see more of. Something Treyarch did incredibly well with the infiltration mission in Cold War, building atmosphere while still keeping up a sense of suspense. But if we're taking examples from this specific entry alone, I'd say that Mission 11, the one where you guide Hudson's squad in the Yamantau Mountain through aircraft radar and then from a boots on the ground first-person perspective, comes pretty damn close to what I'm thinking about. There's even a section that is entirely stealthable if you want it to be, which feels so fucking good to pull off. That sort of design mentality would help align itself even better with this more mature, cerebral story the game is trying to tell, rather than being yet another meat-headed release in the franchise. Of course, the rub with that theory is that Call of Duty has a specific audience. That kind of audience, the type you'd have to meticulously build every level around as to incorporate more subtle gameplay variants with mindless shoot down bad guy set pieces so as to not upset their attention spans, all within a fairly limited development timeline, so I'm not surprised the product ended up being one way over the other. I don't begrudge Treyarch for taking the common approach, by the way, as even when I play Black Ops, my mind switches to the typical Call of Duty brain rot mode by default. I just think in hindsight it would have made this already great game even greater. Now, I'd be remiss not to mention what is probably my favorite overarching theme with this game, the one that makes it so special to me personally, the constant underlying conspiracy theory tone. Spoilers for the rest of the story ahead, fellas. Things have been escalating at Mach speed. General Dragovich is getting ready to activate sleeper agents from all around the globe in order to launch a lethal gas against the United States. Developed by Third Reich scientist Friedrich Steiner, it is nicknamed Nova 6, the very same kind you'd see in Zombies, by the way. As it turns out, the numbers are codes sent from a Russian-operated broadcast station used to relay hidden messages for their spies, and Mason is the only one within reach capable of translating them for the location of the station itself. In a last-ditch effort to snap you out of your trance, the interrogator reveals himself to be your handler, Jason Hudson, joined behind the scenes by his squad mate, Gregory Weaver. He frees you from your restraints, culminating in an escape attempt mindfuck sequence where the truth comes out. You were brainwashed into being a sleeper cell agent by Dragovich and company. Mason was initially going to be released out of captivity as a Soviet mole with the express purpose of assassinating President Kennedy. However, due to his undying American devotion, the brainwashing ended up being inconsistent along with his ability to translate the numbers. Thus, Dragovich sees no use in you and sends you right back into Vorkuta as a prisoner. This is where Reznov comes in. Tampering with the programming to suit his own additional means, he sort of clones himself into your mind as your schizophrenic ghost pal with his purpose of eliminating General Dragovich, Kravchenko, and their accomplice, Dr. Steiner. It's some sort of revenge scheme against the Soviet system which had forsaken its devout soldiers after World War II. Viktor Reznov had died in Vorkuta. That's why your teammates never seemed to address his presence, or why you could spray a full mag into the guy without getting a mission failure screen. He was never there with you Tyler Durden style. However, he made sure to have a backup soldier for his plans, being the man himself, Alex Mason. With the cat now out of the bag, Mason manages to translate the number sequence. The broadcast station is located in the Rusalka spy ship in Cuba, from the ending of the very first mission, tying the narrative back around.
Where? Cuba.
You go there, save the day, kill Dragovich, and even satisfy your Soviet brain worm in the process. Roll credits, yada yada yada. Great, awesome. So, you remember how your initial programming to assassinate JFK supposedly failed because you were such a gall-down patriot? Well, things might have not ended up quite as rosy as they seem. During the big reveal sequence, Mason spurts out this little line. Obviously referring to JFK's shooter, Lee Harvey Oswald, whose case has inspired many conspiracy theories throughout the years, and was rumored to have an accomplice working with him for the assassination. But wait, there's more! When you fight Dragovich in the final confrontation, this little exchange goes down.
Tried to make me kill my own president! Right?
Zoink, Scoob! I don't like where this is going. At the end of the game, you get a sort of commemorative montage of JFK's last moments before his untimely death. But if you look closely at the crowd, there seems to be a familiar face there.
Ascension.
Ooh boy, here's another popular one I really like. So you know how the big reveal is that Reznov has been dead all this time? Well, like, for starters, there's no actual visual confirmation of his death, and by COD's code of conduct, that's already quite suspicious. If you check Hudson's account on the interrogation room computer, you could find a couple of strange emails sent from one John Trent, and another one sent to JFK a day before his assassination, which all seem very Reznov-like. For years, a sense of mystique had floated around in the vacuous Sirius ether. What if he is still alive? Then you go all the way to Black Ops 4, and there's this audio of Mason legitimately meeting Viktor Reznov face to face, all but confirming his status is still above ground.
Mason, stop! Stop! He's real! He's right here! He made it out of Vorkuta. I want you to look at him. Mason, look at him!
It is me, comrade. Reznov. Frank, what the fuck?
Now I say that, but considering BO4 had no proper campaign, I tend to think there's a chance it was probably just a bit of non-canonical fan service instead of a proper reveal. However, those computer logs from BO1 make me lean heavier towards, yeah, there might be more to Reznov's condition than meets the eye. And if that's true, what's neat is it doesn't contradict the game's internal logic either. You can't kill Reznov's NPC because he's already dead makes just as much sense when you look at it from the perspective of you can't kill him because he's simply not physically there with you at that moment, but instead hiding somewhere else in the world. Shit like that is why I love Black Ops so much. Little touches and flourishes that help build out the world on a grander scale than just playing the story once and moving on. It's not incomprehensibly subtle, and I think for this kind of game it doesn't need to be that way. It's just hidden enough in the background that if you're paying close attention, you could probably pick up on it with little difficulty. As ultimately meh as Cold War's campaign was, and maybe Black Ops 6 is, I still haven't gotten around to it yet, I'm glad that Treyarch are at least willing to put these small details for us in games that have otherwise been in a steady quality decline. As much as I hate being a doomer about it, I don't really see any future Treyarch Call of Duty reaching the same quality heights as the streak they had going from World at War till Black Ops the 3rd, and even then the only reason BO3 gets slotted into that spot for me is strictly because of zombies, though it's more of an Activision thing than a developer thing, I feel. While it's obviously the studio's responsibility to make the best possible product they can, circumstances be damned, it seems as though COD has really found its market dominance in recent years with Warzone, a viral plague that spread its ugly self around every other mode with these games. Or in other words, it's not that Treyarch, Infinity Ward, or even Sledgehammer don't want to make a game with its own unique personality and flavor. It's that doing so would shake the foundational blocks which are currently making this series profitable. We don't live in this imaginary reality where creators constricted on certain time and budget can always put out exactly what they had in mind. Compromises are just a part of business and really life itself. That being said, I take solace in the fact that we've gotten so many excellent experiences throughout the years, flaws and all. I'm happy to say that I could always boot up one of these sumbitches for a bit of good time. Here's to you, Black Ops, you odd batshit classic. Thanks for the memories.
You look like hammered shit, Mason.
Never do that to you. Freedom! For you, Mason! Not for me! I told you about number 6. It's Victor! Wrestler!
It's over.
2,
We won.
3, 19, 0.
And hey, at least Eject Gun's viable now, so maybe it's not all bad.